What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. I've been hanging out today, putting heaps of work into the E36, getting it ready for Battle Royale round 4 coming up, not this weekend, but the weekend after, August 20th, Calder Park Raceway. I've been making a bunch of progress on this thing, and as you hopefully can tell, I've now actually finished the two-tone wrap, and it's wrapped green down the bottom here, as opposed to the other side, which I'll show you quickly. That was purple because I actually ran out of green wrap when I first did the car. We're just giving the car a quick refresh after Winter Matsuri. New flares, new wrap, some more stickers, 2-set garage down on the side skirt there as well. It's starting to come up super nice, so this thing should look freaking rad next weekend. Now, I wasn't even intending on making a video today, but a couple of boxes turned up and I literally cannot help myself. I'm super keen to open them up and get into it. So today, we're going to be mounting the turbo onto our motor for the EG Civic, which I'm really excited about. So if you remember, we had the motor, we gave it a mad rattle can refresh, and we just checked over it as well, made sure everything was all good. And so far, so good. The thing's starting to look fantastic. So I'm very happy so far with the motor. But now, we have a couple of goodies. First things first, in this box right here, which we're not going to be using today, but we have an Apexi AFC Neo, and this is what we're going to be using. This is a fuel controller, and this is what we're going to be using to tune our car. You basically wire this into the ECU, which I'll show you guys in a later video, of course. And then you can go ahead and tune fuel, put bigger injectors in it and tune fuel. I was definitely a bit hesitant about using a fuel controller. I was looking at potentially getting a full standalone ECU or a Hondata, but we wanted to keep this project budget. I did some research into these. Turns out they actually can work pretty well as long as you don't get injectors that are too big, which we won't be getting. So we're going to be using it because it fits really well with our budget build. So that is what we're going to be using to tune, but not today, so that goes to the side. Now we have two boxes here. These are the boxes that we are most excited about. So first things first, we have, boom, our turbo manifold for our D15. Now, so there are a couple of different options you can use for your turbo manifold, and both have pros and cons. So this is cast iron. That means it's quite heavy, super thick, not very pretty, but works very well and does not crack. I was very much on the fence. I really wanted to get one of the really pretty tubular style manifolds, like you'll see in this photo of my old Civic. The problem with those being, especially the cheaper ones, and we're on a budget build, they crack because they're not made out of high quality metals, and they're kind of thrown together pretty quickly. The welds can be kind of average on the inside, affecting flow and whatnot. So although they look really nice, which is awesome, you risk having them not last very long. Now they're hit and miss. You can have, the one that I had on my old Civic was awesome, never cracked, was great. But for this one, I decided to go the tried and true method of the cast iron manifold. Now the benefits of these, they're really thick, they don't crack. The cons of these, they don't look the best. I actually don't mind this one too much. I don't know what's happening with these nipples going on here, but I should probably not do that. We're going to call them nipples. But nonetheless, as you can see, they don't look anything super amazing, but they do a fantastic job. And because they're cast, on the inside, there's no welds or anything like that. Everything's super smooth. So flow restriction shouldn't be a thing with these manifolds. So very excited to chuck that on the car. I got this on eBay. The link is in the description. And then of course we have our max beating rods turbo. We'll open it upside down because the other side has my address on it, and I don't want you all stalking me. You know how it is. I know you want to turn up to my front door and see what's up. Here we go. Damn. These things ain't light. They now have the max beating rods on the actual housing, which is pretty cool these days. This is our T28. It's this same turbo that we're using on our Fivo. It just doesn't have the gold compressor wheel, but other than that, all the other specs are exactly the same. This is a T28 that you'd use on a SR20 DET, but it should work super nicely for our D15. Hell yeah, dudes! By the way, this was $267 on eBay. These are $250 from Max Beating Rod's website, but of course, jump in the description, use the link, and use my code MikeLake. You're gonna get 10% off. You'll get 10% off everything on Max Beating Rods, which is pretty sick. But before I go ahead and mount the turbo and stuff to the motor, you commented and said, We need to make these black, which I wholeheartedly agree, and of course we need to spray this black as well. It's just kind of irking me because everything else on the motor looks super nice and they don't. So we'll go ahead quickly, we're going to take this front pulley off, take these off, spray them, put them back on, and then we can mount our turbo and our manifold. Yes, let's go! Gotta pull the valve cover off to take them off. Damn it! Boom, we got everything off. Good news. Looks like a very, very new timing belt, which is nice, and tensioner. Fantastic. So someone has done a little bit of maintenance on this motor recently, which is fantastic because now I don't have to go buy a new timing belt and replace it. Good job. So let's quickly just wipe these down, spray them in front of the heater because it's bloody cold, chuck them back on, and then we can do some turbo things. Ew. Yes, that is much better. Thank you guys for suggesting I do that and pushing me to do it because the outcome is fantastic. Very happy with that. Lovely, and now we can do the fun stuff. So the Max Speeding Rods Turbo comes with an installation instruction kit, which I would probably just put aside over here and just leave there and continue on with your day. A nice wee catalogue here. So we have the gasket for the rear housing, fantastic, we're going to need that. We've got the gasket for the turbo manifold, that goes between the turbo manifold and the turbo, fantastic. So these are the studs, oh there's 5 of them. Oh maybe these are for the rear housing. Well we're not going to use them for the rear housing, we're going to use them for the turbo manifold. So we've got these studs here, we've got our turbo manifold, I've already inserted one of the studs. So we're going to put a stud in each of these holes, slip the turbo on, and then chuck these, boom, these bolts on the studs, just to make sure that it all fits perfectly and properly. Alright, so now we test fit the turbo. Which way is it going to be? The turbo sits outwards. Boom! Like a glove. So we know the turbo fits the manifold, that's fantastic. The reason I tested that is because these do come in a T3 configuration, which means that this flange will be bigger. But this is obviously a T28, which means T2 flange turbo. Fits nicely on there, fantastic. So now, I think we can officially go ahead and bolt our turbo manifold up to our motor. So I've made sure that we have our metal gasket in here. The gasket's in good condition, so we're going to reuse that. It's a multi-layer steel gasket. So now we're fitting up the turbo manifold. Should just slip on super nice. I haven't tested it out, but they look exactly the same as the Fivo turbo manifold. So I wonder if this would fit onto the Fivo head or whether they'd just be slightly different in the stud pattern, but it looks very similar. But dope. That looks nice. I mean, as far as cast iron manifolds go, this actually looks pretty cool. I'm not mad at it. I still am very weirded out with these nipples. Someone please explain to me why they're there, because I don't really get it, but it is what it is. So I'm going to go ahead and throw all the bolts onto that manifold. That literally can go on and stay there permanently, I think, and then we'll go ahead and we'll slip the turbo on and see if hopefully it doesn't hit the block or anything like that. I literally have not tested it, so we're going to test it together. Let's go. Alright, so that's nice and tight. Now it's time to test fit our turbo. See if we need to clock the front compressor housing or anything like that, and kind of see where all of our lines and stuff are going to sit. Okie dokie, so we need to clock the compressor housing of our turbo because it's pointing directly into the block at the moment, and we want it to point down so that it can go down to our intercooler piping. I've already undone the bolts, but you just undo the 13mm bolts on the back of the compressor housing and you should be able to twist it. So can't do it with one hand. I'll put you guys down for a second. Let's rotate it. Alright, our turbo is clocked. Very happy with that. I did end up having to just loosen off the wastegate a little bit, so it's real important you just take your time and set up your turbo properly before you put it on, so that when you start running it up, you don't try and have to chase issues and wonder why you're not building any boost. So you want to make sure that this wastegate flap at the back here is closed, so when you adjust the compressor housing, you're actually moving this as well. I unbolted this and actually shifted it one whole bolt section over. And when you do it up, obviously that's going to change the leverage that it has on this arm right here. So you just want to make sure that this is closed and that this arm doesn't have a whole lot of tension or not enough tension on it. So I undid this, took the circlip off and just did it up just enough so it slips over here nicely, that it's closed, has a little bit of tension on it but nothing too much. And you can kind of change the boost levels, I believe, by adding a bit of tension to this. It'll hold it closed for a bit longer and then build up a bit more boost. But yeah, we just want the standard, I think 7 PSI that the internal wastegate gives us for now. So we're good now to officially bolt up our turbo, I think, to our manifold for the final time. So let's go ahead and do that. And would you look at that? Our turbo is now bolted up to our motor. Looks so good actually. Woo-wee. Part of me really wishes I could put the engine in the car this way and have it be rear wheel drive, but unfortunately these Honda motors spin the wrong way, so if you put it in this way in your car and you put a gearbox in it, you actually end up driving backwards in all the gears, and in reverse you'd be driving forwards, so not quite what you want. Now obviously the turbo fits beautifully, doesn't hit the block, nothing hits anything, which is really nice. I'm not running any air conditioning with this setup because the car didn't come with it. Our Civic is so POV spec that it has wind up windows and no air conditioning. So that's not going to be an issue for us when it comes to fitment. Not sure if it will be an issue for anyone else with this turbo manifold. Our power steering pump does go here, but it sits on like this side of it, so that'll be fine. I think all in all we should be pretty good for clearance. Now one thing I didn't mention before that you have to put in with the max speeding rods turbos that come with it is this oil restrictor. Just a little thing here that goes in the top, just like so. That just means that you don't blow your oil seals in your turbo out with your maximum oil pressure that you're going to be getting from your motor. So it just screws all the way down, and that's it. Oil restrictor is nicely in the turbo. Now we do not have our oil feed line kit yet, so I can't do the oil send and return, but I will be doing that whilst the engine is out of the car. I'm really enjoying working on an engine on the engine stand and not on the engine bay. It's so much easier, so much more enjoyable, and you get to really take the time, and this is the end result. It looks so freaking nice. So next up we will be doing the oil lines. So oil return goes here, simply down into the sump. It's going to be really easy. And the oil send, like I said in the last video, comes from your oil pressure switch right here. You tee into it, it'll come either around the front or over the top into our turbo, and that's pretty much the plumbing for the turbo all done. Water lines need to be plumbed at some point, but we'll figure that out when we get to it. I'm just over the moon with how that looks. It's so freaking sick. And there we have it, a super monumental moment for the build. The turbo is on the motor, and the motor is now ready to go into our Civic. That means the next video will be us pulling the old setup out of the Civic and starting the EFI swap. Now that is not as simple as just swapping the motor over and throwing it in. Apparently, so I'm told, there's a whole bunch of dash electronics and stuff that we have to throw in. I have them all, I've bought them all. I've got the EFI tank, we've got the motor, got the loom, got the ECU and all that. That stuff's all good to go in, so it's going to be a pretty intense process. And my friend Tristan, who is actually Turbo Tristan, he has a fantastic YouTube channel, doing all of these turbo Honda motors. Luckily, he's around the corner from me. He's going to come jump in a video with us and pretty much teach us the way of the Honda, which is going to be pretty freaking sick. So I'm super pumped about this build. Very much enjoying myself and taking our time, doing everything super nice so that when we put it all in, honestly, I think it's going to look freaking phenomenal. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, hit that like button. Feel free to subscribe, support the channel, and lastly, jump onto droptheanchorclothing.com.au, grab yourself some gear, support the channel. It really, really helps. Thank you guys. I'll see you in the next video. Peace. Bye.